welcome, and thank you for joining me today. I'm so grateful to have you here, sharing in this space of growth, healing, and transformation. If you've already subscribed to Loving Everything, thank you for being a part of this beautiful community. Your support means so much, and together, we're creating a space where love in all its forms can be explored and embraced. As you listen to this episode, if it resonates with you, I invite you to like the video and share it with anyone who might benefit from the insights we're diving into today. These conversations are all about expanding our capacity to love ourselves, each other, and the world around us. And if you enjoy what you hear, don't forget to explore my other episodes where we journey into love's deepest, most unconditional forms. Each one is an invitation to reconnect with the parts of yourself that are waiting to be seen, healed, and loved. So thank you for being here. Let's begin. And we'll get started.
All right.
Hi, Trevor.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for showing up today.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to be here today. So thank you.
Good. Well, I'm really excited to have you if I don't get too excited and knock over my own light. So let's get started with what first drew you to skateboarding in Utah, and how did it help you find connection growing up in a predominantly Caucasian environment?
Wow.
We're starting hard.
We're starting out fast. So, yeah, I guess just to tell you a little bit about my story. So, like you mentioned, Utah, in my neighborhood especially, was predominantly white. And being a kid from Brazil, I definitely stood out. And
Yes.
on top of that, I come from a mixed-race family, so I got all different races in my family. And so, yeah, we were kind of a different family there. And so growing up for me, I guess my earliest skate memory, if you will, started with actually the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's where I kind of started practicing, just English and practicing, I guess just being me, and I definitely credit that cartoon series in the 80s, just as part of the reason why I keep having dude rad in my vocabulary as an adult. So
I have it for Southern Californian reasons. Yeah.
So, I mean, watching that 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie over and over and over again, I just love skateboarding. I remember my first skateboard was this like little tiny plastic, like Huffy skateboard from the 70s. And really I would just kind of zip around on that thing because it was just a blast. And then I ended up getting a Walmart board, and that was just, again, really fun. I think it was called like a Tomcat or something like that. And anyways, just progressing from there. And so to kind of answer your second part of how did this bring me connection?
Yeah.
Well, I think I would honestly say, like, because I felt a bit of an outsider, I've always been kind of eccentric. I always describe myself as a self-aware eccentric. Some people think I'm funny, but it's really like I don't know what's funny about what I'm saying.
You're super funny.
So, yeah, I just remember skating was something that I could relate to, but it was also something that other people around me could relate to too. And so many of my friends, we were like into BMXing, we were into motocross, we were into all that type of stuff. But skating just was that one thing that to me just stood out, and I was never good at it. I tried, but I was never good at it. But it never stopped me from just loving that sport. And so as I look at like how I've found connections throughout the years with skateboarding, I actually went back and looked at this, and I thought it was so just so crazy, right? Like, I met my best friend, and what was he doing? He was skating outside of his like little.
You did a timeline, and all the people that were important to you were skating. That's so awesome.
It's so weird to think about that, you know. Like my best friend in high school, we were skating, and we were terrible at skating, but we loved it, right? And that's just kind of the philosophy: just do it because you love it, right? And then, I met Jill. My other half, and I met her on a skateboard. I was going through a park and I saw her and I thought, wow, that girl's cute. And I rolled up to her and had no idea what to say and made an idiot out of myself. And then just kind of what served as the inspiration and that's how I connected with everybody in my college years, is we would always go out and go skating. And then how Skating as Connection started really just started with me wanting to find a way to connect with my daughter, who at the time was, oh man, she was like 7 or 8.
Yeah, you're jumping ahead. We're going to get to all of that.
Sorry.
It's okay. To connect with your daughter for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, there's just a spirit about skating throughout my life that has just brought kind of that layback feel, just be at peace with everybody, just enjoy it because it's fun. And I think that's really like how I got connected.
So did you feel like there were so many ways I could have taken that? I was just listening to you. So many segues. But did you find that it provided some sort of comfort because you grew up different than maybe most of the people around you, and so it was a way to have something to connect with?
I would say yes and no. So yes, it was something that I was just jazzed about. It was something that was cool. When I looked at all the skate videos and stuff, like Tony Hawk Pro Skater came out at that time too. It was just cool, right? Like that was, I think, how I got into it. And I always hate to say it was a cool factor, but I would say it was like the style, it was the rhythm, it was just that flow. I think that's what really attracted me to it. And then it was, kind of like what you're saying. I mean, I think it was something that I could use to equalize the situation, right? Where I wasn't Trevor the kid with brown skin, or, hey, you don't talk black, or you don't act black.
Right.
Or, the kid with the crazy hair, which honestly, I don't know many people who have the same haircut as they are when they're 10. Hair, I need to let go of it. But, so I would definitely say yes and no. It really, I guess, just that it deepened my philosophy of life to be like, whenever you hit, when you're going down a hill, when you're bombing a hill and you hit a curve, you got to lean into it, right? You got to trust yourself. You got to trust other people. You got to look to see the best in people. You got to build people up. It's okay to take a hurt. It's okay to get hurt as long as you get back up. It's about progress, right?
Taught you some really good lessons.
There's just a lot of, I know, it's kind of, I sound kind of hokey when I say it.
No,
but,
you don't. It taught you some really valuable lessons as a kid. I missed out on a lot of that shit.
Okay.
I wasn't allowed to ride a skateboard. My sister fell over and knocked both of her teeth out, and we weren't allowed to ride skateboards anymore after that. They're just like, no, none for you. Your teeth are too valuable for us.
I didn't take spills until I was older, right? And so that's where like I separated my shoulder, tore both my hip flexors.
Wow. You had some serious injuries.
I was dumb. I still have pains and nerve pains from it all, but would I trade it? No, not in a heartbeat. And sometimes I think it's like when I go to the doctor, they're like, oh, are you getting old? And I said, well, I'm getting old, but I think these injuries are more because I'm almost 40 and I'm still skating.
Yeah.
And skating poorly, I'll add.
Yeah. Can you share what it's been like to move to Portland and driving into its unique skate culture? I don't think I'm going to be able to read this. I just realized. Sorry, let me repeat that. Can you share what it's been like moving to Portland and diving into its unique skate culture?
Yeah. So that will have to be like two different time periods in my life. So moving to Portland, I guess just for me, I had lost a job in Utah, and I was living out in the sticks. It felt like a Lifetime movie where, or like Footloose, like with Kevin Bacon. Like literally, the town I was living in was just like that, and I just
No
felt like
way.
the outsider. Oh yeah, it was terrible. And like I thank the powers that be that I left that job because it was the worst job. So in my decision to come to Portland,
Yeah.
I had no idea about anything about Portland, like nothing at all. I knew it was below Washington and above California.
Yeah.
And something about the ducks.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I came here, it was different. I wasn't expecting. I think there were certain things I was expecting, but some things I wasn't. So I was always expecting that the weather was going to be rainy, so I wasn't like shocked or worried about that. I think what I wasn't expecting was just how kind everybody was in Portland.
I agree.
Just like welcoming people were. I don't know, just everybody kind of matched that same kind of chill vibe that I have. There was always something unique to do in Portland. I was a little confused about the makeup, the demographic makeup here, because I didn't know if this was like...
How?
How
confused?
I was expecting more people of color.
Okay, so you expected it to be more diverse.
Yes, more diverse. Thank you.
Yeah,
I should be using those words.
But yeah, it's very Caucasian.
Yeah, so that was one thing I wasn't expecting because I was expecting more like L.A. or
no,
I don't know what else.
Yeah,
some other
San
big
Francisco.
type,
San Francisco, it's
something.
a stark contrast. I mean, you can just fly from PDX to SFO, and you're like, oh yeah. I mean, I am, very privileged to be white, but also like I am almost, I wouldn't say I'm a minority in San Francisco, but I'm almost a minority in San Francisco in comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that was the thing that I found and fell in love with about Portland was just that unique variety. And I loved it. And I loved the fact that, like, for me growing up... just of things to do.
Got it.
Going to a rock show, going to an art show, heading out, seeing the Blazers play, going to an arm wrestling match for no reason at a bar, like just having a blast doing stuff like that,
Yeah.
And then I guess just kind of like fast forward to your second half, like the skate scene. The skate scene here is just similar to the skate scene everywhere, The people are cool. It's chill. I definitely would say that the skate scene here has its own unique vibe. Skaters have definitely the... I'm trying to even think how I can say this. I don't want to get in trouble or anything. Oh my gosh, I forgot to turn that off. You guys can say hi to my mom if you want. No, so again, so for me growing up, Utah skate scene was, I wouldn't say fledgling, but it wasn't like a premier sport because we had the mountains, so we went up snowboarding. That was like the big thing, or wakeboarding. And so skating was just something you did when you couldn't do those two things. And here, I just love the emphasis on like skate culture, skate life, and it's very like true to the Pacific Northwest vibe. And I really enjoyed that. And, no offense, but it didn't have the California vibe, right? Like the, hey, bro, what's up? And I love the California vibe, don't get me wrong, because that's what attracted me to skating in the first place.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like surfers, too.
Yeah, I just kind of adopted that, like, no, this is Oregon. Like, I want to do this for Oregon. Yeah, like California's got all its skate shops, so I want to do this for Oregon. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of... for me and just everybody out there, like everybody who I've met in Oregon, just the philosophy, the kindness, that generosity that they share, the wisdom that they share in the skate world is just amazing. So I have just been super impressed with, at least with the people that I've met so far in the skate world, just love it, love the vibe, and I love that, the Portland skate scene, it's iconic. So I just love being kind of part of that history, when I'm not even part of the history, but just saying, like, I like to feel like I'm contributing a little bit to that. So
yeah. Okay, so you are, what I know of you, you have traveled a lot of places in the world. Did you skate when you were traveling overseas at any point?
No.
Okay.
No, I did not.
Because I know how much you love it, so I was just curious if you brought that with you.
I didn't know.
Or
no.
like you lived in Portugal at a certain
Yes.
point and you weren't skating there.
No, Portugal was just a whole new adventure. And I was very service oriented when I was there. And so Portugal taught me so many things about life
What
in
did
general.
it teach you? Tell us.
Oh, man. Just to appreciate a sunset, to fall in love with the culture, to get in touch with your ancestors, to really appreciate the history of a people who very few people know, right? I mean, everybody talks about Portugal now, but that was not the way it was 10 years ago.
There, yeah.
And most people are like, oh, Brazil. Right? Like, oh.
Is that in South America?
My favorite.
Where is that?
My favorite is when I told people I was going to Portugal, they were like, well, I hate South America. I'm like, well, it's in Europe.
Good.
Like,
I don't know why you hate South America, but also.
I'm like, well, that's awful. But I think that was the thing that I learned. I learned how to fall in love with service out there. I learned to love the people, the food, the culture. It really, for lack of a better word, it really just brought out that Portuguese side of me. I am biracial, as you can tell. But yeah, I think that's where I really solidified my identity as a Portuguese and Afro-Portuguese man. And I loved it. So I really feel like my love for skating has driven a lot in my life, but Portugal really set the foundation for me to be a better person, to strive through adversity, to understand that, sometimes you don't have to live in the country to be part of the culture. And I loved that, because I was born in Brazil.
I find that a lot about Europe.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And yeah, just
They're
being
very
adopted
welcoming.
by it.
They're very welcoming,
So,
even though they don't particularly love our politics, generally speaking. And I'm always kind of like, I'm American, yes.
Yeah. They'll love you or hate you if you're American.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, you also have a very interesting past. Tell us more about your love of dancing.
Yes. So I started dancing, I think it was like 9 or 10. I can't recall, but I started dancing at 9 or 10, and that was because my mom, I love my mom, but
I love that she called.
No, isn't that ironic? She's always been my hero. But I think for me, dance, I did not want to play the piano. She always tried to get me to play the piano, and I remember my 2 piano teachers. One was just like really cold, and I didn't really like her. And then the other one, it was like in a house, and she had like tons of cats and like gerbils or something. So I just remember that house.
Gerbils?
Oh, it
stunk.
It was bad.
Yeah.
It smelled awful.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, I don't know, maybe it was just that little kid in me who was just like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
It's like, is something going to jump out and get me?
Yeah.
And, I just didn't have, I love music. I love piano. But I just didn't have the patience to do it. So I think.
Do you still play it?
I'm the master of 2 fingers on the piano.
Chopsticks. Okay.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
And
okay.
a few other additions, but yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I think my mom wanted me to be, and I've never asked her this, but I think she just wanted me to be in something musical. So she took me to this little performance group called On Stage, and There, it was very
This was
awkward.
in Utah.
This was in Utah.
Okay.
And we were out of a dance studio in Murray, Utah, in this really kind of shady ghetto place right next to the train tracks. It was a pretty
Almost as good as the cats and the gerbils, huh?
yeah. But it was just fun. I mean, I started off with performance, then I moved into hip hop, and kind of excelled at hip hop and dance and a couple of other things. And
I've never seen you dance.
most people won't. But yeah.
But you got really good.
In my own mind, I did get very good. No, I think other people could probably confirm that too. But I said, like, I think the only reason why I was good is because I had a good smile. I love to perform. And it was just a blast, I didn't take, there's this, it's kind of an old school dance mentality. It's getting better, a lot better, but like, we'd have dance instructors that they expected or demanded perfection with things, and that can get very intense for some people. Yeah. And for me, it was always a joke. Yeah. Like, I could always make, they'd be yelling at me, "Oh, Trevor, why are you talking? Do push-ups." They could always be yelling at me, but I'd always just kind of laugh at them because I was like, okay, like, are you really that mad at me? But yeah, I mean, that really taught me a lot about just going, I mean, again, another huge influence in my life. It really taught me that things may not go right, but you can always keep dancing, right? I think Sia had a song, I don't want to maybe quote those things, get people in trouble, but yeah, I don't need money as long as I can keep dancing, you know, and dance just let me unleash that side of myself. That's just the showman, just having fun. So dance in front of large crowds. Two of my partners went on to do great things. One of them ended up in New York dancing with a couple of companies and did really well there. My other partner, Joy, she's amazing, but she ended up becoming like a 2-time international champion, and her stories are just insane.
What kind of dance?
She was into ballroom. I did ballroom.
You did ballroom.
Well, I did performance, which is kind of a mix of ballroom and a bunch of other things. Yeah. So hip hop, jazz. I did take ballet.
Me too.
I'm trying to think what else.
I took hip hop and jazz.
Yeah. Break, did a little bit of break dancing.
Good for you.
But yeah, just I loved every minute of it. And it got to a point in my life where it was either make the sacrifice and go do your thing or be a kid. Yeah. And I thought...
chose to be a kid.
I think, I love doing this. Been doing it for like 12 years. And I was just like, I think I'm going to enjoy being a kid. And I went back to skating, and kind of hung out with my friends. And, I don't ever regret leaving dance, but I think dance has cursed me with the ability to see mistakes in dance. Oh, yeah. And so that's a problem for me. Yeah. So Dancing with the Stars, I love it to death.
But you're like the worst critic.
Oh, it's bad.
It is bad. It half bad. Of the people aren't even dancers. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and not even Dancing with the Stars is too bad, but sometimes if I go to a performance...
What about So You Think You Can Dance? Do they even have that anymore?
I don't know.
They used to. Yeah.
I think so. That one was good.
Many years.
Yeah. That one was good. I love it. Michael Jackson was like a huge influence, and I just loved watching him dance. Usher was another huge person I loved. Janet Jackson. All the old school players out there.
Miss Nasty, if you... I don't remember. I just loved her. I think I had every tape of hers.
She was amazing. So yeah. And then you listen to the lyrics and you're just like, because as a kid we're just like dancing, having fun, and then we listen to the lyrics.
I knew the lyrics. I knew what was going on. I was in junior high. I knew what was up.
I love it, man.
Yeah. I was like, whoa, did she really? Okay.
She did.
She did. She went there.
She went there all the time.
Mm-hmm. She sure did. All right. Let's see. Okay, you covered that already. Let's see. Okay, your community project, Skating is Connection, is so meaningful. Can you tell us what motivated you to turn a personal project with your daughter into a community initiative?
Yeah. Yeah, so as I was kind of saying a little bit earlier, so about 7 years ago, I was just, I don't know, you kind of have that father moment, right? Where you're just like, I don't want my kid to hate me when I'm older. Like, like I don't have a lot in common with this tiny little girl.
Oh, because she's female?
She's a female, yeah.
Well, I know, but like that's what you were worried about because she was female?
Oh,
would
no,
would it have been
no.
different if she had been male?
No,
Okay.
no. More so the fact that, like, I just didn't know how to relate to her.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, because you're the opposite sex is what I'm getting at.
I would say so, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like...
It's intimidating as they get older.
Intimidating. I didn't really have a father who was, like, loving and, like, hey, let's go out and do things together, So I was a little bit disjointed that way. I had a great relationship with my mom, but I think it just, like, having to translate and to be that person in my daughter's life, it was just something that was confusing, and something that... even to this day, I'm like, oh God, did I say the wrong thing? Like, she's not going to talk to me. But
Is she going to be telling her therapist about this?
I know, seriously.
That was always my concern.
Like, is she going to come home for Thanksgiving one day or Christmas? So yeah, so
is she ever going to stop telling me she hates me while she's a teenager? Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to have something that kind of piqued her interest because she's really into art. She loves to draw.
How old is she now?
She is 14.
Okay.
So
you're in the thicket. You're in it.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, so it was just something that I just felt inclined to do, and I was trying to figure out something to do. And
she was 7 at the time.
She was, yeah. Okay. So thank you. Yeah, that's my math. That's how great I am at
math. No, this is my job. I'm supposed to be paying attention.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I was at a Goodwill, just kind of like dinking around, just not really thinking. I just kind of go shopping sometimes when I'm not shopping. I'm just like thinking.
Yeah.
It's just giving me something to do.
Yeah.
And I came across this old kind of skate deck. It was like a painted skate deck. It had this polar bear on it, and it was awful looking. And it was undrilled. Like they didn't have any like places for the trucks to go. And it just kind of dawned on me. I'm like, maybe she wants to do this. I'm like, oh, I could build her a skate deck. And I put it in the trunk of my car, and I forgot about it, truth be told. And like a few weeks passed, and ended up in Arizona visiting family. And I even tried to offer it to to a family member. And they're like, nah, I don't need it. So I was like, all right. And then finally it hit me again. And I usually don't share this with most people, but it hit me again. Like, maybe I need to like do this with my daughter, And so I decided to do it. So I brought her along and I said, hey, we're going to build you a skateboard. And she was like, skateboard? Like, why is this important? And just from that moment, for those next 2 weeks, I got to kind of share my love of skateboarding. We took several trips down to the skate shop and like, picking out the wheels and we got teal trucks and we got white wheels. And I got to show her how to put it together, and then I let her kind of design it. And that's why our symbol's an owl for skating is connection, and it's just based off of her design. Is just this little tiny owl. And she did that because she was going to an elementary school that she loved, and that was their mascot. And so when we finished up, it was just amazing. It was just like she had a blast with it. She wanted to go out, and we call it butt boarding, where you just sit down on the board and go down, right? And she just loved it. She just loved that board. And I think more importantly, we just loved the time together. And so that kind of inspired me that, the next year to kind of just start doing a board at the end of the year, giving it away to a neighbor kid. And then as it grew, just as it grew, we started pulling in people from, around the neighborhood. And then there was like a local church that wanted to get involved. And then we became friends with the people in that church. And then it got bigger, you know, and then through that church we started growing it, and they started telling everybody else, and then it just started getting bigger, and that's really kind of how we evolved. And then by random chance, I was asked by my employer to put together a little skate package for the Oregon Food Bank auction. So I went and asked a 17-year-old volunteer to like paint up a deck, and we had to like reshape it because we take old decks and then refurbish them.
Yeah.
So we got that deck, and I went down to a skate shop in Oregon City while I was just like at work, and I ran into another skate shop owner who was ironically there visiting his friend who was the owner of that skate shop, and he thought the deck was cool, and he was like, man, he's like, what do you do? And I gave him the worst like explanation of my life. It was just terrible. I just felt like really like insecure and dumb. I'm like, well, I just blew it. You know, he's like, well, yo, if you need any help, let me know. Thinking that, you know, I thought I didn't know if he was serious or not. So I got his number, but I was just like, yeah, this isn't going to work out, you know? And so a few months went by, and it was coming up on my event when we started calling it Deck the Halls, just, you know, to go tie in with the end of the year theme and, you know, with the skate decks, right? And so I had initially gotten boards from some Facebook group of like mothers who just wanted to get rid of their kids' trash. So that's where I got a lot of those boards. And then I was running low on boards. I couldn't find any boards, so I said, well, I'll give this guy a call and see what happens. And I called him, and he goes, whoa. He's like, this is so crazy. And I go, what? He goes, I just got a whole bunch of decks back from painting, and the paint was ruined on them, and I didn't know what to do with them, and then you called. And he's like, come and get them, man. This is sweet. And so he offered to put on...
How many?
We had 28, which was like, that's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, when you know how much the price of decks are,
yeah,
like that's huge,
yeah,
you know? And so, and plus with the ones that we had already. So I think we did about 35 that year. And yeah, it was really cool. You know, just he threw on an event for us, and we got to give boards out, and then we delivered some boards, you know, through December and everything, through the holidays. And it was cool, you know. And, you know, I just had a lot of opportunities to like learn things in that project. Like one thing, I guess I'll share two things briefly. One thing that I learned that was really cool was like I was sanding down a deck one time, and there was like a lot of scars on the deck, you know, and I was just like trying to work, you know, I'm working hard on this thing, and I'm just like, man, this thing, like these scars are just not coming out. And as I was working on it, it just hit me hard. Like, you know what? Each one of these scars represents like a fun time. This was like a kid's escape, right? Because some skaters, not all, but there's some kids who just don't have, you know, the greatest home life. And so skating is that way out of that. You know, they go and they ride hard at the park all the way until the lights close. And I just sat there thinking like, you know what? Like sometimes we are scarred. Sometimes, you know, we can feel discarded. Sometimes people can think that we don't have enough life in it, but like, no, like it's okay. Like this board still has a lot of life. Sure, it's got a little bit of scarring on it, but hey, we can do what we can to make it better. And the next kid who gets that board is going to have the same excitement about it, you know. And so I don't know, that like really hit me strong about it. And then I remember,
well, it's kind of like wabi sabi. Is it? Maybe that's not the. Well, either way, it's the using the gold leaf to attach in the pottery to attach a crack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Japanese in origin, and it's probably not that whatever I was just calling it. But the point is there's a technique that's actually revered because it symbolizes like, you know, things falling apart and coming back together. But your scars are what makes you beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, there's like a.
It's like who it makes the personality of that board, besides the way you paint it or design it, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that's
it's
cool.
It's the history or the memory in that board, right?
Yeah. It's all of that, and you know, I think just that experience, and then one wintry night, I was delivering some boards, and I was just stressed because I was just trying to get all these decks done,
and
I
it's
was just
Christmas time.
I was just so mad. I was so mad. because I was just I was just kind of done. I was just ready just to kind of relax and just let it go. And I delivered that board, and I just felt like a surge of just peace and just like tranquility that it's indescribable. And I was like, yeah, this is why I do it, And since that time, we've grown a lot. We did 78 boards last year,
That's
plus
incredible.
a bunch of other stuff. And one part of the aspect that we wanted to capture is that with all the art, like I kept on having people share with me why they did their work and why they had their inspirations. People come up and, oh my gosh, like we did this. This reminded me of me and my family. And so I was like, you know what? Why don't we just capture that? Let's just have you write that down, and let's put that board online so people can read the inspiration. And so that's kind of what we've been doing since that time, is I want to make sure that whoever receives the board gets a personalized letter from that family or that person, and then sharing that inspiration for the board. Because even the boards that, like, let's say you have, not everybody, like, I'm not an artist. I won't lie. Like, I'm terrible at art. But I won't say that about the people who do it, because they are amazing at art. But, some people may say, like, well, I don't know, like, what do I think about this board? But then when you read that story, like, it's amazing, Like, I have a volunteer who is dealing with a pretty severe ailment, and his wife stopped me as I was picking up the board and said, "Thank you for doing this." And I said, "Why?" And she's like, "Oh, he's been dealing with this ailment. I won't say what it is, but he's like, it causes him a lot of pain. And this is what's helping him kind of cope with that." And like, that's just hard to, like, to kind of be like, oh, wow, like that's making the difference, right? So everybody can find a little bit of what they want. So that was a way long answer.
It's okay. Yeah. You get on a roll. It's fine. Let's see. What impact has skateboarding had on your relationship with your daughter, especially through collaborating on skateboards together?
I would hope to say enough. I mean, she's kind of getting into other things right now, but I think just overall the impact of it is that time together, to kind of know that we did something together, and it's something that we just enjoy, and I think one day she'll kind of have more appreciation of it, right? Because right now she's like into phones and the right clothing and the right things.
Yeah.
I think I can't speak for her, but I can say for me, it was that one time where I could prove to myself that, like, being a dad sometimes doesn't have to be rules, or like, here's the plan in life. Sometimes being a dad can just be as simple as just sharing something that you love with them.
Do you feel like that's the dad's role? Is the rules?
Well, that was my dad's role.
Okay.
No. No, I think for me, it's just...
You are the disciplinarian.
I wouldn't even say that. I would say I'm the dad who, like, because I got no advice or no guidance growing up, so I don't want to be that dad who was I can't say that my dad didn't give me guidance. He gave me a few guidance, but he wasn't really, like, there. So I would say, like, for me, being a father is just doing a little bit better than that, right? Like, making sure that she does understand that, like, I love her and that her feelings matter, and that when she's sharing with me about things that are important to her, that I'm there listening, And I feel like that's a dad's role. But, there's always that masculinity piece that you always are bombarded with as a man. Like, well, this is how you're supposed to be a dad. And I don't subscribe to that at all. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. Still figuring it out.
I feel like the dad's role, at least from my perspective or my experience, is that especially when you're a teenager, you're learning how to relate to the opposite sex, and assuming that like your gender is female and you stay gendered as such, but it's your relationship to the opposite sex. So it's setting the framework for long-term relationships and partners in your life. And it's also teaching you relationship between somebody that loves and cares for you. It's also demonstrating all of the selves for a female. So self-love, self-respect, self-determination, all of those disciplinarian, if that's the word, technique, to how you're going to establish yourself as a female in this world and the boundaries and relationships to that, right? So that's where I really feel like a father's role really comes in for, I can only speak to my experience, right? For a woman is truly teaching me my relationship to how I love myself, how I care about myself, how I'm going to allow other people to care for me, because I see, a father as a protector or a man as a protector. He is the great protector and should be. And so he's teaching me how to care and allow other people to care for me or not care for me, and teaching me good boundaries, what is healthy boundaries around that. And so, hopefully you receive that. Some women do not, but, and then you spend, the rest of your life trying to figure that out on your own. But
yeah, no, I appreciate that thought. And it kind of gave me pause to reflect, because I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, oh man,
you got some work ahead of you.
Her dad has kind of an immature clown shoe of a father.
You're not immature. You're so much fun.
Just sometimes, I get out there and she's like, Dad, why do you do that? And I go, honey, honestly, I've asked myself that since I was 5. I don't know. I go, I'm just eccentric. That's all it chalks up to be.
Yeah,
so
it makes you.
But no, I appreciate that. No, it's cool.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. How did your first skateboarding date with your partner come about, and what did that experience mean for your relationship?
Let's see. How did that work out? Well, I would definitely say that first date was, I would say it's hard-earned. Because when I first met her, she thought I don't know what she thought personally.
You never asked?
The way she treated me, she was just like, you're that dude who just wants food. Like, that was pretty much it. Like,
what did she think that about you?
Well, because I rolled up on her in a park while she was talking to her friend. so
she thought you wanted food?
Well, she was eating food at the time.
Oh,
and so
okay.
she was just kind of like, who is this guy?
Got
and so I made attempts,
Did you ask her for food?
No,
okay.
I just said, you don't want to get places to eat around here. Like, seriously.
That's really what you said?
That was my first line.
That was your first line?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
That's called acting on impulse.
You were really nervous.
I was.
Yeah.
Well, because I saw her, I was like, man, she's cute. And I just kept on feeling that, like, because, with my ADHD, I just have poor impulse control. And I just kept on thinking, like, I'm going to go over and talk to this. I'm going to go over and talk to this girl. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to go do it. And so I finally did. And then,
how old are you?
Oh, God, I think I was like 25.
Okay.
So it's weird. It's like I can talk to most people, but like to her, I just couldn't. And then the other problem was I couldn't make her laugh. And that killed me. And so that,
how about now?
Sometimes, but it's more inadvertently. Like I said, sometimes.
She doesn't think you're funny?
I don't know. She'll laugh intermittently at stuff, but I'm not quite sure. So she, yeah, I mean, it was kind of a hard-earned first date because, I later learned she was dating somebody, but she just...
So she wasn't available?
Very stoic. Well, and she's also a professional musician, so...
What kind of music?
Harp.
Wow! Yeah, so, I almost bought a harp a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I would need to talk to her.
So world traveler, harpist.
No way!
Yeah.
She's traveled?
Yeah, she did the Pittsburgh Youth Symphony Orchestra.
No, traveled. She did not!
She was, she's been harping since I think she was like 4. So she's, really, really, really good at what she does. So we both kind of like have that in common of, both of us kind of excelled in like musically inclined stuff. So we know for us that it's like, there's expectation, but like sink or swim, don't take critiques, personally. It's just something to make you better. So our first real kind of like date, I guess, if you will, I just like went over to her house and I had 2 longboards in my hand and I knocked on the door. And again, it was one of those moments like I didn't know what to say. So I said, "Hey, you want to go get some olives and apple juice?" And she was like, "What?" I go, "Don't worry about it. Just like hop on the board. Let's just go." That's what we did. We rode down to the local grocery store.
And got olives and apple juice?
Got olives and apple juice and curbed it. And that was our first like time. She goes, "This is like the weirdest thing I've ever done."
You're like, welcome to being my friend.
Just do it. Welcome to the Emporium. I go, "This is the ride." So yeah, I mean like it was weird. I mean, we didn't really I don't know how to describe it. It's like we didn't really date. Like we hung out quite a bit. I wouldn't call it dating. And we did that for a long, 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 long time. So so I mean, that's the history of that.
Okay. So. Let's see. You covered that. Okay, what changes have you seen in the kids or families you've supported through Skating as Connection?
I've seen a change in how people perceive skateboarding. Most people kind of have that old school rebellion. I'm going to, I don't know, I'm going to break something, light something on fire. I don't know why people get people like that. But, I've seen a lot of people who were initially not into skating come into skating. And so that was really cool to see. It was really like, so I know one person, he's a great guy. Sometimes he can be a little cantankerous, but he, for about the first 3 or 4 years he was doing the project, he'd always show up and, "Oh, I hate skateboarding." I'm like, "Why are you here?" Like, "Oh, I like to do this for the kids." And every year it was the same phrase. He'd come in, he'd just get annoyed. I don't know if I want to do this. And I'd be like, "Come on, man. Like, you serious?" And so eventually, though, he just started getting excited every year, when it would show up. And talking to him now, you would not believe that this guy, because the first conversation I had with him, he's like, "Oh, skateboarders are terrible. They're just rotten. They're blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Great, dude. So thank you so much for joining." But yeah, I've seen people change in that way. I do work with some youth. I was actually on a phone call earlier this afternoon where I was reminded that I do have some youth that are, with temporary housing, so they were unhoused
They're at risk
when I first met them. But yeah, just seeing them feel a connection to the project and feel that connection to service. So they come out with me. They'll be at my event tomorrow.
Good.
But yeah, just seeing that light kind of in their eyes like spark up.
Something exciting.
Seeing our families every year that come back, our regulars that come back every year and do a board, seeing how they're just more excited about being part of something, seeing something grow.
Yes.
And the fact that the boards get out to, youth around Portland. And I just got to give a shout out to like my collaborators out there. So Dream Big Cities, Skateboarding Saves, Rebel Skates, Tactics Skate Shop. Like, those guys are just awesome. I have nothing but great things to say about them. Skaters for Portland Skate Parks. Those guys are awesome. So yeah, just a lot of those guys are just great. But I'm sorry, I just had to throw that out there.
That's okay.
But yeah.
How would you say receiving a custom skateboard changes a child's life? Have you seen examples of how it impacts their confidence, friendships, or family life?
Yeah. There's one kid in particular that I know, definitely, I'm trying to think how I can diplomatically put it. I would say a kid who is looking for connection. I'll put it that way, right? We gave him a board, I think it was 2 years ago. And it was just amazing to see just people light up. I think he saw this as a bridge to, again, being cool, right? And finding that connection. So I saw that kind of impact his life, his family. His family was very much like, wow, this is amazing that they're willing to do that. And so that was really cool to see that kid change. Most kids who get a board just light up because boards can cost anywhere from like $60 for a deck to like $300 for a completed board. And so when a family gets that, that's just a gift. You know, they just love the fact that like, oh, wow, I got something for my kid. I guess my last quick story, a good personal friend of mine, he was at the time going through a divorce, and I offered him a board, you know, a completed deck. And he's just like, my son's not going to be into this. My son doesn't like any of this stuff. And I'm like, just try it out, man. You know, just try it out. And so, long story short, he came, like I saw him a couple of weeks later, and he just came up to me, and he was very quiet, private about it, and pulled out his phone, and he showed me a picture, and I was like, what is this? And it was just his son sitting in front of the TV with his feet up on the board. And he goes, my son is somebody who just hates wheels. He just like doesn't like anything. And I gave him this board, and his eyes just lit up. He goes, he eats breakfast on it. He rolls around on it. He does his homework on it. He does all these things, you know. And he goes, but I've just seen him light up. And he goes, and I never thought that would happen. And I thought it was like, yeah, you know. But yeah, I got loads of stories like that of just, that's so cool. You know, a dad. I said that was my last one. This is my last one.
So many stories.
I had a dad who, you know, he works pretty heavily at Amazon, and he came to like sand down the boards, but he didn't want to take one home. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the sanding, I could tell he was like into it. And he said, yeah, can I take 2 of them home? I said, yeah, man, absolutely. And this was like the first year I was kind of doing it with other people. And he came back, and, you know, he shared a personal experience where he showed me all of his pictures from like the beginning to the end. And he just looked at me and he goes, you know, I'm extremely busy with work. And he goes, I generally sometimes prioritize work too much. And he goes, but this forced me to be with my kid. And he goes, and that was amazing. And he goes, and it was just fun to see that happen. He said, anytime you do this again, I'm there. And it's just been cool, you know. So I think in the impacts, what I'm mostly seeing is it's kind of that impact of a parent who is kind of discovering what I discovered, which is like that intentional time is huge for kids.
It sure is.
So
it's invaluable.
Yes. Yeah. And that's all I want to do is, you know, I always say skating's the inspiration, but connection's our product. And that's really what we want to do is we want to have the kids who, they may not remember all the times dad wasn't there, mom wasn't there, grandma or grandpa or whoever, right? Guardian wasn't there. But they will remember that time that they spent together. And that's what I want to create, you know, so.
Does your daughter still have her board?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And can I touch it? No.
Really? You can't even touch it?
I do, and I try to, like, because every time I think she doesn't use it, I'll pick it up, and I'm like, I'll just, you know, farm parts off of this thing. No. Put it back.
Yeah, you can't be taking apart the original, the OG.
I know. That's my own problem with
it. You got to make a new one, and then it can be your skateboard. Okay, how does your cultural background, having been born in Rio de Janeiro, I will not say it the way that you do, influence your perspective on skateboarding and community connection?
How does Portuguese? Well, honestly, like skating in Portugal and Brazil is huge. And it's just one more link that I have to culture and community. Is like, I don't want to like generalize or anything like that, but like skateboarding is huge for Brazilians. We are fun-loving people. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but like from my perspective, that's how we are. And the more Portuguese people I'm around, the more I realize that. But yeah, I think it's just how it's influenced me is it's just, again, one more of those ties. Like growing up in America, sometimes it's hard to like stay with the culture of the, of the country and stuff like that. But like, I remember when I was a kid and I've discovered that. I discovered like, oh yeah, skateboarding's huge in Brazil. And I'm like, well, that's just one more link I have. It's one more thing to tie me back to the culture. So I think that's how I've always honored it.
What's a childhood memory related to love or connection that you hold dear?
Well, it doesn't have to do with skateboarding, but
No,
apricot
that's
nectar.
Okay. I love apricot nectar too.
So,
oh my God, we were obsessed with it when we just
yeah.
me and my best friend.
Yeah.
Oh my God, she was like ordering it off of Amazon and then being like, this is not what we had. Then I tried to make it this summer. Yeah. Okay, apricot nectar.
Yes.
And peach nectar.
Yeah. I haven't tried peach. Strawberry juice is good.
Peach nectar in France is pretty good.
Now I'm going to have to try it.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah, that's what they're all after. Yeah.
I love it.
And Italy because of the Bellini.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, apricot nectar. That was just my mom. We had an apricot tree.
We did too.
We had to pick it, and I hated the earwigs. That was like the only thing I hated. I was just like, she's like, you want to go out and pick it? And I'm just like, oh. And she'd be like, do you like apricot nectar? I'm like, oh. It's like I hate the squishiness on the ground, and I hate the earwigs.
Yeah.
Like, you get rid of those two things, I'll be out there all day. But yeah, every summer if I can, and I make it down to Utah, I'm like, yeah, I'll go pick the apricot tree. And so that ties to it. But if I had a warm memory of skating as a kid, I think my biggest, warmest memory was doing a paper route. I did
a paper route too.
My brother. I guess,
took it over from my sister. But
yeah,
keep going. Yeah,
exactly. My brother, he was doing it.
That's how you made money as a kid. It was either like mowing lawns. There weren't that many things you could do. I don't know. Maybe wash someone's car. I have no idea. But
yeah. I'd sketch a ride on the back of the car. It was like the only time like my parents would let me like ride on the back of a car, like behind it, like Back to the Future style.
You would hold the back of a car?
Oh yeah, sketching a ride. It was a blast.
And on your skateboard?
On my skateboard. So I remember one time I fell.
Shit that we used to do back then.
I fell one time and I thought my foot was going to get run over by the car, but it didn't, and it ran over my board, and I was like, no! And my board didn't crack. And I was like, oh, this is amazing.
This had to have been your mom. Your mom was driving the car.
I can't remember who was driving the car.
Did your dad really drive the car?
No. I can't remember who did. Because I have sisters.
Okay. Someone was driving the car.
Someone was driving the car. Okay. I can't remember who.
Okay, maybe one of your sisters.
I don't know.
Oh, no, I had to ride my bike.
You were that person.
Yes.
Straight up, like, boy throwing it out.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Learning how to Frisbee toss it onto people's front.
I'm sure I should have done that, but I was just like, I'm going to sketch a ride. So that was fun.
Okay, yeah. Okay. What would you say has been your biggest lesson in love, both in family and community contexts?
Sorry, could you repeat the question one more time?
Yes. What would you say has been your biggest lesson in love, both in family and community contexts?
I think my biggest lesson is forgiveness, truth be told. I know that sounds kind of weird.
Does it help you love more?
It does, actually.
It makes more room for love?
It does. I think what it does for me is it allows me to forgive myself and know that I'm not perfect. It does help me to remember that we're all on a journey. And I always find that, like, if I let things go, I get more in return, right? Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like, waters that have passed don't move the windmill. Águas passadas não movem moinhos, which is like a Portuguese phrase. But it means like the waters that have passed under it. So the waters that have already gone past the windmill.
It's like water
won't
under
move
the
it,
bridge.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what it reminds me of, is it's just like sometimes you just got to drop that weight. And if you're willing to let go, you're going to get so much more in return. And I feel that for family, that's a big thing that I got to do, is just every day, just remember, like, forgive myself, forgive others, move on. And in the community context, as you're building projects, as you're doing things, you are going to get a lot of criticism. You are going to get a lot of people with different ideas. You're going to get people who are, they're going to laugh at your quirks, and you have a choice to either take offense to that or just let it go, and forgive. And I find that when I can drop that and I can let that out of my life, I have a greater capacity for good. I have a greater sense, I guess, if you will, like a greater vision, if you will, where I guess the only way I can describe it is every time I got frustrated in Utah, I would drive up to the mountains, and I had this spot where I could see over the valley. So like Salt Lake's just a gigantic valley.
Yes,
and
that views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could just sit and look over the valley and just let it go. And it just, my mindset has always been that way, that when I forgive, it just elevates that view. And I find that I'm just a lot better, So I think that's my greatest lesson.
What's something unique about you that only those close to you know?
Oh, God. Let's see. Something unique. I mean, God, I think I've spilt the tea on myself too much today.
If you feel like you already shared it with your ballroom dancing, then
I think the thing
this came from Two Truths and a Lie. So we were in a coalition together,
Yes.
and you had to do Two Truths and a Lie.
Yes.
Your lie was lighting your friends on fire, I think it was.
No, that's actually the truth.
That was the truth?
Yes, that was the truth.
Truth?
That was the truth. Well, I can't say I lit the match. My friend lit the match.
Did you lead us astray by saying you were a ballet dancer? Was that it?
I can't remember.
I feel like that's what it was. And I was like, I didn't think he was ballet. I mean, I think he did ballet, but I don't think that's we were all having a conversation.
It may have been, maybe it was that. But yeah, no, the lighting
like,
my
he
friend
told me
on
he had a
fire. No,
dance
that really happened.
Why?
Because he was going to light himself on fire. And so
you decided to do it for him?
Well, no. So
okay,
for context, back up.
Yeah.
On a strange afternoon,
Yes.
I got a random call.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, dude, get over here. Mind you, we're like 17, 18.
Okay.
And we're like, who was that? It was like, it's Jim. And we're like, oh, man, this is not good. So we go over to the house. And his house, like, I don't know where his parents are, but it just smells like paint thinner. We go in there, and there's a tarp in his front room, in his front living room. And there's piles of clothes everywhere. And they're doused in some sort of chemical, some sort of like accelerant, right? And he's in his kitchen, and he's in his underwear and with goggles on, and we're like, Jim, what are you doing? And he's like, oh man, he's like, I'm gonna light myself on fire today. And we're like, no, like, you will burn. Like, what is your plan? Like, you will burn to death. He goes, stop, drop, and roll, man. And we're like, no, that's not going to happen here. And he goes, look, I got a secret ingredient. And he goes into his kitchen, and he has his island here, and he leans under and he pulls out a bottle of aloe vera. And I'm like, Jim, what are you doing? He's like, it prevents burns, man. And we're like, you idiot. And he's just like, putting it on his face. And so...
Sorry, this is not funny.
For we thought it was hilarious.
I'm sure you did.
He's just like, when I say I'm eccentric, like I had friends who were just super eccentric and immature, but we, I think we took like 20 minutes or something to try to talk him out of it. And finally we're like, he's going to do it. Like, he's either going to do it here in front of a camera or like with us either here helping and supporting, or he's going to do it on his own. So I just said, okay, let's be smart. Let's at least go down to the creek, Like, that's totally kid logic right there. Let's at least go down to the creek, so if anything happens, you can jump in and douse yourself. I was, oh, okay, we can do that, you know. It's just freaking idiot. So, yeah, we ended up doing it and lit him on fire. He wanted to be lit at his ankles so the flame would travel up, but they lit him at his back, and he ended up burning his eyebrow because he looked into the flame. We have it on video, which I probably shouldn't admit, but yeah, we have that on video. Go Team Falcon. Yeah, he he did it. So that was I think I'll do you know what, that's what I'll share. I'll say the one thing that most people don't know about me is, like, as a kid, we used to do really stupid and insane stunts and things. Like, it was like the Jackass era. We did a lot of stupid, random things like that. And I don't know how we didn't walk away with broken limbs. You know, I still have a crack in my foot from some of the stupid things that we did back then. But yeah, I think that would be the thing I would say that people don't know about me.
Wow.
I don't share too many of those stories because most people are like, you did what?
Yes.
And we're like, well, perfectly logical explanation. It was pretty funny at the time. So, yeah.
Okay. What do you feel is your natural talent, and how does that show up in your work?
I think my natural talent is just being able to lean into my eccentricities without having it kind of be a hindrance. I tend to think outside of the box. I tend to be able to, like, relate to people. Like, genuinely relate to people, not just like, oh, hey, you're cool, you know, and then, like, talk about them. But I think that's probably a strength that I've seen that I have, is just being able to relate to people and think outside of the box. And I have a passion. I have too much passion. So as you can tell, I've talked way too much in this interview.
You haven't at all. Yeah. You're actually, yeah, we've only talked an hour. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah. You're good. Let's see. What was I going to say? When you're expressing love, whether for family, community, or your passions, what's your favorite way to do that?
I think privately. I think just naturally I like to recognize good work, and I like to let people know that they do good work. That stems from a lot of my own history of not getting compliments and feeling like the enemy, you know. So I think that's like how I like to express love, is just in private, in those small moments, giving a genuine compliment to people. I don't like being fake with people. Like, for me, it's like, if I say, hey, I think that was awesome or something like that, like, that's legitimate for me. I don't do it to make people feel good. Mm-hmm. I guess that sounds bad. But, yeah, so just being genuine.
Mm-hmm. In your view, what qualities do you most admire in a person, and why?
I think, honestly, for me, what I admired most about people is they had an innate ability to overcome challenges.
Me too.
I think that's a big thing for me. I'm definitely a person who just has this really huge delusional confidence in himself that, like, I could be hanging off a cliff and a tornado would be coming and there would be a fire below me, and I would be like, awesome, let's get this done.
Wow.
And so when I can meet people who are the same way, like, I just love it. But yeah, I would say that capacity to overcome challenges is a big thing for me. And then just being genuine. Like, if you're a genuine idiot, be a genuine idiot. If you're a genuine jerk, be a genuine jerk, you know. I really admire people who are willing to be their authentic self. So that's, yeah, I think that's where I'm at.
What has been your greatest challenge to overcome in your life?
I think the hardest challenge was kind of the trauma I suffered when I came over to Portland. So when I lost my job, mm-hmm. It wasn't just like I lost my job. Like, I lost my income, I lost housing, I was living from place to place, I remember sitting in a car with my daughter and like having her on my lap, and I just had it was a can of chili. I can even see the label. It was a can of chili, and I still have the spoon that I had, and I was just like I'm never gonna get out of this car. Like, life is terrible. I can't feed my kid. I can't do anything, you know? And so I think that was hard because I didn't realize how traumatizing it actually was at the time. But I think that was probably the hardest thing, was just kind of realizing one day that, like, I got out of that car, you know, sitting on the side of the road, a quarter of a tank of gas with no destination. Like, yeah, I think that was like the moment when I was like, okay. And like a few months after that harsh experience, I ended up here in Portland, and that like, and then it was just kind of like a little bit worried about it, and then wisdom from my mom, like, what do you want to do? You like, go big or go home, Trevor. Like, you got to go hard. And so I was just like, done, and I just started laughing again. And I never stopped, you know. And yeah, I think that was probably my hardest thing. So
How old is your daughter?
she was 3 at the time.
Okay.
So it was hard because she was hungry,
Yes.
you know, and yeah, I still just remember her. She wasn't crying. She was just she was a little bit fussy, but she was just playing on the seat. And I just remember that's when I kind of broke down, you know, because like my sister, we were in my sister's basement, and then she basically was like the start of the end for them. But, you know, there was just a hard time there. But yeah, just fortunately I had other people in the area that let us stay with them, you know, my mom. So that was cool. Like, she actually had space, which is amazing. But yeah, I just remembered sitting in that car and just being like, I am the ultimate failure. But I never forgot that moment. I never forgot those moments of instability. You know, I never forgot the time where I'm earning $11 an hour working at Real Salt Lake Stadium, right? Doing security for the things and riding, you know, 5 miles in the winter time on my on my vintage 10 speed. But I love every minute of that thing when I look back on it, truth be told, because it taught me, well, I now have a lot more empathy, a deeper empathy for people in those situations. But I think most importantly, it taught me that, like, when the chips are down, like, I won't break, you know, like, nothing has been as hard as that. And honestly, it's good, you know. You know, there was just so many different things along the way that just, you know, small miracles here. I mean, that's the only way I can say it. It was just small miracles there that were helping me along the way. And I'm so grateful for that. And that's where that genuineness comes from, is like, anyone who's genuine, like, be grateful, man. You know, just be grateful for what you got. And I think that's why I'm so excited about it. So, yeah.
Looking back, is there a piece of advice you'd want to give yourself before you made the trip to Portland?
I think the biggest piece of advice I would have is, like, it's going to get better. The sun will rise, the rains will stop, right?
Isn't it interesting how long it takes us to figure that out?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it took me about 3 years if I were to put a number on it. But yeah.
Of consistent effort at that time in your life, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, it also takes wisdom and a little bit of experience and age on you to realize that things are going to work out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that you always generally figure things out. And yes, some people definitely can circumvent lessons, but, you know, for the most part, you do tend to figure things out in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, again, all those previous questions you answered, like, forgiveness, Like, that was a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Because I realized for me, like, especially after going through that traumatic experience, like, the one thing that really got me over it was forgiving, like, all those people. It was like genuinely looking at myself as a person and saying, this isn't getting me anywhere. Like, you know, like, these revenge fantasies aren't getting me anywhere. And they weren't violent or anything. It was just like,
but you were that
oh,
pained.
I hope that person loses their job.
Oh, okay.
You know, but
Yeah. Would you say that forgiveness also gives you more compassion for yourself as well as other people?
oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I think that forgiveness, one, it let me let go of everything that was hard. And then two, it just felt like, I don't know, like a greater sense of like,
Peace.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but just like a greater depth of peace.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just it felt like there was a oneness to it. And I look back, like, I actually ran into a lady who was one of the antagonists a few years ago. And she kind of led the charge that ultimately led me to being dismissed from work. And it was weird. Like, I saw her, and initially, you know, you fear that day. You fear the day, like, what would you say to the person if you ever had the chance to see him again? And I saw her, and it was nothing but, like, peace and laughter. I was like, man, I am not there anymore. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I have stepped up 3 times. I've helped so many people,
Yeah.
you know?
And I'm not looking for your approval.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was, I think that was
I can
the
just
test.
allow you to be.
Yeah, that was the litmus test for me to see if I actually got over it, and it was. And it was just like, it was cool. And I think she felt more awkward about our exchange than I did.
Yeah.
She's like, so you're in Portland now? And I said, yeah. Yeah, and I'm here at this conference sharing on an activity that we just developed over there. She's like, oh, well, that's good for you. And it was just kind of like, you know, I wouldn't say that we were friends or anything like that, or I was going to run up and give her an embrace, but it just felt nice to not feel that fear or anger or any other residual thing. So yeah, that greater compassion has helped me out. And I think really that's what drives me to want to be genuine with people and to try to show people you're doing great work, you know. So I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's the hardest thing about working with the unhoused or the community that you serve?
That I wish I could do more. I mean, sorry, that sounds really like cliched.
No, it doesn't. Very rarely nowadays are people walking around going, I wish I could do more for other people. No, that takes a special, unique person.
It's I think because of of my position in working with youth that are unhoused, you know, or newly housed. I think there's just you know, I just wish there was more that I could do. I wish there was more policies that could change, or that these youth
because you can
I hate
see
to say it, like, to get prioritized more.
Yes.
You know.
But it's not like you can predict with 100% certainty, but you can see the trajectory. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's where, for me,
prevention is so key.
Big time.
Yes.
Well, that, and just, I think a lot of where, at least from the youth that I've interacted with, I think a lot of it's just, again, being there at those right moments for them. Like you were saying earlier, right? Like, establishing those healthy boundaries, those healthy, you know, even just patterns of, like, non-sexual touching that are just, like, appropriate, you know, like,
you're doing it for your daughter and you're doing it for the community. Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of what I wish I could do.
You're being the father.
A little bit, you know. But yeah, I think that would be it. It's just, if there was more I could do.
Let's see. We've pretty much answered everything.
Cool.
What do you hope to see, or where do you hope to see Skating as Connection in the future, and how can the community help make that vision come to life?
I would love to continue to build out the project. I'd love to start working with, I guess, if I had the community's help, I would love to start working with more culturally specific groups and getting their stories through skater art on a board and getting those out to the community.
What about graffiti artists?
Yes. I've been trying to hunt them, so if you know anybody.
Well, there's a whole book of them. Anyways, we'll talk after.
Well, yeah.
I have some connections
So,
I've thought of recently that would be helpful.
Yeah, I would love to host bigger events. I'd love to bring back some of those 90s kind of like skate ramps, like the snake ramps. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see a slappy grind competition happen. But I think ultimately I would just love to get more groups to come out and participate, with their families, right? I mean, there's a bunch of skaters they're getting older. They have their kids. They have, or grandkids in some cases.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just love to have more opportunities to create events that are like, they share the love and the passion and the philosophy of skating with those kids, so that those kids have those passions growing up too. Mm-hmm. And knowing that, for me, like I said, I never had the talent, but I always wanted to be part of skating. Always wanted to be part of it, and I never figured out how to do it until, again, it was a labor of love that inspired me to do this thing, and it's connected me back to that passion. So yeah, I think that's 5 years. I've definitely loved to see us ramp up and get more opportunities to share things. I'd love to have the skate, because we only do decks right now. But I'd love to see those decks become completes. And I would love to have more opportunities for amateurs to get out and showcase their talent, because sometimes it's hard. It's hard to find the right venue with the right people, with the right sponsors, getting those eyes on you, So love to do that, but just, share the word that, come out, connect. It's more about the connection than anything. Skating isn't about individuality. It is about individuality, but it's not about doing it on your own. It's about a community. Mm-hmm. And hopefully I said that right, but
you did.
It is about a community, and I think that's what I want to share with people. So yeah.
Well, if anyone listening or watching wants to know more about Skating as Connection, we will definitely have it in the show notes of how we can reach you. And if you want to know any more about me or what I do, you can go to andrea.love, and that will take you to more information about me. Thank you so much, Trevor, for spending time with us.
Yeah.
And sharing all of this.
Yeah.
And making me laugh as usual.
I definitely appreciated the opportunity. This is fun.
Good.
And it's, I don't think I've shared this much about myself with most people.
Well, good. I have that effect on people. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting this podcast. Your presence here means the world to me, and I'm truly grateful for your time and energy. If this conversation resonated with you or sparked any questions, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing from each of you. Your insights, experiences, and curiosities always enrich this space. It's important to remember that trauma, often unseen and unacknowledged, can keep us from living fully in our joy. Through my intuitive healing process, I help release the weight of generational trauma, empowering you to reconnect with your true self and experience life in greater harmony. If you feel called to explore this deeper work, I invite you to book a one-on-one intuitive session, or even embark on a personalized journey with a Phoenix Immersion, a 2-day retreat designed to support profound transformation. You can find all the details below. For those who've liked, subscribed, or left comments already, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your engagement means everything, and I'm deeply grateful for the connection we're building in this community. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I'm excited for all the healing and transformation we'll continue to explore together. As always, I'm forever grateful for you, and I cannot wait to see what unfolds next. Take care, and until next time.